just see what Mark Cuban had to say and what he was really saying when he's like, only a moron would start a business on a loan.
We were talking earlier today on one of the panels, and you made some really fascinating points about innovation right now in this country.
Is the audio up enough?
And all that needs to be done to encourage it,
nice work,
encourage small businesses. What do you think overall is the most important thing for new entrepreneurs right now?
Just to go after it. I mean, the thing about being an entrepreneur is it's just all to you. You know, a lot of people like to make excuses. I don't have connections, I don't have money, I don't have this. But, you know, if you find something that you like to do or love to do, be great at it and see if you can turn it into a business. In worst case, you're going to have fun doing what it is you love to do. In best case, you can turn it into a business. I'm just not big on excuses. I just think if you really, everybody has that opportunity to go for it. They just got to do it.
Well, you know, a lot of people say it's hard to get a loan right now if you're a small business owner or you're trying to come up with an idea. How do you get the capital to start that business?
Well, first of all, if you're starting a business and you take out a loan, you're a moron. Right, because there's so many uncertainties involved with starting a business, yet the one certainty that you'll have to have is paying back your loan. And the bank doesn't care about your business, or whoever you borrow from, unless it's family, doesn't care about your business. You know, and so it's just a complete conflict. So
what should a small business entrepreneur
99% of small businesses you can start with next to no capital. It's more about effort. You know, small businesses don't fail for lack of capital. They fail for lack of brains. They fail for lack of effort. Most people just aren't willing to put in the time to work smart. I mean, they go for it in a lot of cases, but they just don't recognize how much work's involved. And if you do the preparation, if you start a business, you better know your industry and your company better than anyone in the whole wide world, because you're competing. And to think that whoever it is you're competing with is just going to let you come in and take their business, obviously that's not.
So let's break down, unpack some of the things he said. So Ty, he said, listen, due to so many uncertainties, only a moron would start a business on a loan. And he said 99% of small businesses can be started for very little to no capital. You know, you and I have been in the trenches. We've served thousands of business owners with funding and financing and helped them launch their business. And as you personally talk to these business owners, and our team, you know, talks with literally hundreds of business owners every single week. Sometimes we get as many as 2,000 funding requests in a week or two. And so as these requests come in, how often how much money do you think most of them are saying, I need this amount to get started? And how many are saying, oh, actually, I just need to work hard and I can start my business?
You know, I've yet to come across anyone that is reaching out to us because we're a funding company and saying, I don't need money. But we definitely get a wide range in the amounts that people are asking for, which is interesting because a lot of them are starting the exact same business, but they have different requests. Now, I definitely disagree with what he says, where only morons start a business on a loan. I do kind of agree that the day that you have the idea of, I'm going to start a business, that's probably not the day you go get the loan.
True.
Right? You've got to get a lot of education. You've got to, like he said, know your industry better than anyone else. You've got a lot of things you have to do before it's time to get the loan. But I mean, how the hell are you going to build an inventory-driven business without the money to get the inventory, right? How do you build an Amazon business, launch your own private label on Amazon without finances? It doesn't work. You don't want to sit there and drop ship forever. Those days are kind of dwindling. So yes, there are a lot of businesses where you do have to have capital to get started.
No question. So you think about it. Let's look at all the businesses just within, a mile of us. If you're going to start a Jersey Mike's, you're going to need capital. True or false? Yes, you are. If you're going to start that truck dealership that's about 100 yards down the street from us, you're going to need money for that inventory, right? If you're starting an e-commerce business, you're going to need money for inventory. Unless you're trying to live on $500 to $1,000 a month, that's not very feasible. And then the next thing that a lot of guys like Mark Cuban will say that kind of have some tech entrepreneurship background is, well, I'm just going to go raise capital and venture capital, and that's the way I'm going to do it. And that's fine if you're in that type of business, but less than 1% of businesses are actually ever going to qualify for venture capital and private equity money. And so that means the vast majority of business owners start from, begging for money from friends and family. And that's not one of my favorites, right? You're going to go beg from, your hard-earned parents' retirement money, your Uncle Joe, unless you got a really, wealthy family member who is just independently wealthy and doesn't mind, putting $50,000 to $100,000 into a business for you and is okay losing it. like that is a tough ask. And so at the end of the day, the option that you have is, you're going to probably need some access to money. If you're starting any type of business that is a brick and mortar location, even if it's not, let's say you can work from home and start an e-commerce business, or you can do a consulting business, you're still going to have to get a website. You're going to have a CRM. You're going to have to spend money on marketing. And then what if it takes you 6 to 12 months to actually net profits to pay your own bills? And so at the end of the day, savings can only take you so far. You're going to have to get financing and funding. And so as we look at, well, what are some actual, real examples that prove that Mark Cuban, isn't right about all this? And I think you made a good point, though. It's not that you get an idea and, I'm going to go get $50,000 in funding for my business and here we go. Like, you have to know what you're doing in your industry, right? You have to have some kind of product, some kind of service, and there has to be a proof of concept where you've proved that, hey, number one, there's a need for this product or service in the market. The market needs it. The market wants it. And number two, I can actually make some money at it, enough money to be profitable, to build a real business. And now once I've got that proof of concept, then I can go and get financing. So if it's an e-commerce business, you're figuring out which product works. And when you find the right product that you can make money on, then you go in and spend a few $1,000s on inventory. If you're doing a consulting business, you're figuring out the service you can provide for your client, for your business owner, whoever it is. And once you figure that out, then you can do the marketing, right? But there's still some upfront costs, websites, different things that you've got to do to be able to cover that. And so at the end of the day, I always like the example of Kevin Plank. Kevin Plank started Under Armour. Amazing story. This guy is a college football walk-on for the University of Maryland. He's doing 3-a-days back when they used to do 3-a-days. I don't know if you did them. I did 3-a-days back when I was in high school. And you're sitting there dripping in sweat in Maryland. It's super humid, and they've got these cotton T-shirts that weigh like 10 pounds. Like, there's got to be something better. So he starts figuring out the right material, figures it out, and he gets kind of a proof of concept. And then he takes $40,000 out and 5 credit cards, and he gets a bunch of inventory. Takes him a year to get some sales. Gets the Georgia Tech or state football team. They buy his Under Armour apparel, and then starts getting the NFL, spreads around the world. Number 2, in the world. And we've also one of our funding partners, who's a big time lender, lent Under Armour millions of dollars before they went public. And so that was a business that was started not even on a loan, but $40,000 in credit cards, and succeeded. And if he hadn't got that funding, Under Armour doesn't exist, period.
Yeah, no, and I actually, Leo, I have an example on the other end of this. When I was probably 21 years old, and I had a handful of friends that were in the solar industry. Solar was kind of booming. They're knocking on doors, making thousands of dollars every single day. And I'm like, you know what? How hard could this be? Let's start our own solar office, and we'll just be, we'll use this company to fulfill. We'll get a few reps going. No big deal. I go to my grandpa, who had a lot of money at the time, and I borrowed about $50,000. And what happened is I got the $50,000 and immediately got the office. Started buying computers, started giving bonuses to reps if they'd come work for me, and all of a sudden realized, what? I don't have scripts, I don't have processes, I don't have the proper phone system, I don't have follow-up campaigns, I don't have any of this stuff in place. And it literally took me about 3 months to get to the point where I had those things in place. And by that point, I had burned through the $50,000, was like, you know what? This isn't working. I don't have any sales. I'm scared. I'm pulling the plug, and I'm going to start paying my grandpa back. And we turned over all of our leads to another group who happened to end up selling like 10, 11, 12 of them, did close to $100,000 in revenue on the leads that we had generated. But if I would have done those things beforehand, figured out my scripts, figured out my processes, figured out my follow-up campaigns, then went and got the money, then got the office, then brought the reps in, we would have had a very successful company. So timing with capital is very, very important when you look at that.
And that's I think, the overall response to a lot of things. Like, a lot of the times on TV, when it comes to, someone who's successful, like, they'll just take a position, a really strong position, and maybe it's right half the time, but the other half it's dead wrong, right? So in that case, Mark Cuban's right. Yeah, don't start that business on a loan because you don't have the proof of concept. And that's why it's so great to get involved in an industry and have a mentor and work at another business for a few years, get to know an industry and figure out where are the other companies missing out? Where are they not delivering the right? How can I actually deliver a better product or service than the competition out there? And once you have that experience, that proof of concept, then you can go out and take the actions and take it in the right order too, right? A lot of the times it's, we got to get the office, we got to do this. And before you've even made $1, you've already spent $20,000. And that's one of the big mistakes that a lot of people make. And so I remember when we started this business, it's, hey, we're working from home. We didn't get an office for our first 8 months. We didn't even make any money for like the first, remember we started in like August of 2018. The first 2 months we actually had, no, it was first 3 months, basically a little more than 60 days, no sales. Finally, it's November 2018. We started to get sales from the Seven Figures Business Accelerator licensing that we did, that you put together for Keystone. And so we're finally making some money. And then we get the funding piece launched, by Thanksgiving. In December, we, I think did 25,000 in December, and then 15 January, and just 100,000 in sales by March. But it's step by step and having that experience. So at the end of the day, the bottom line is Mark Cuban's right, but he's also wrong, and that's what a lot of things are. You're watching a great entrepreneur and they say something, or you're watching someone you really respect in sports, and they'll just take this big strong position, and it was right for them, or it's right in this situation, but not right all the time. And this is exactly the case with Mark Cuban saying, "Hey, never started a business on a loan," and yet, we did, and it's worked out well. But we've also had businesses that we did, and it didn't work out well, right? Yeah. And so there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. Kevin, Plank did it the right way with Under Armour. A lot of other folks have done it the right way, but there's certainly many examples of people who did take out the loan, didn't have the proof of concept, and the business failed. So I'd say the first key is the proof of concept, and then the systems and processes, right? You've got to have that foundation in place. And then for me, it's focusing on sales. Yeah. I just always remember, the story of the founder of Samuel Adams, the beer brewing company. He got 80 grand from his uncle, Wall Street guy. He's busy doing all those things, buying computers, building the office out. And his uncle just yells at him, "What are you doing? Stop wasting your time. Go get some sales. Then you can worry about all that rest of that stuff."
Yeah, and you also have to look at the type of funding, right? Because I do a training, I call it inventory scotoma, and I kind of steal a little piece of that from Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins does a training on what he calls a scotoma, which a scotoma is a blind spot in your vision, okay? And the example I like to give is we just made cheeseburgers, right? We just grilled up some cheeseburgers, and I walk to the fridge, and I open it up, and I'm thinking, we're out of ketchup. We do not have any ketchup. What the heck is going on? I know we just got some ketchup. Babe, where's the ketchup? She comes over, stands right next to me. A little bit different perspective. Ty, you idiot, the ketchup's right here. And no problem.
That's happened to me with Jill a bunch.
See, exactly. That's the scotoma. He calls it the blind spot in your vision. Now, with e-commerce businesses, because I've worked with literally thousands of e-commerce businesses, helping them get funding, I like to focus on revolving lines of credit. Right? You don't have a payment unless you spend the money. And I call it inventory scotoma because I have people that are new Amazon businesses that, believe it or not, they can't find anything to sell, Leo. There's all these things right in front of them, but they can't find anything to sell. Well, guess what? I go get them access to $20,000, $30,000. It shifts their perspective, even though they haven't spent the money. 100%. They don't have any bills due. Just by seeing, I've got $30,000 available, they start to look at different vendors. They start to do their math with higher order quantities and realize, wow, I actually could afford this. And if I did this, my margins are significantly better. And now it makes sense. And they're willing to actually take action and make buying decisions. And honestly, they wouldn't have if they didn't have that line of credit. So getting that funding early on, yes, it's funding. Yes, it's available, but you don't have anything due until you spend it. So you may as well get that available so that you can start to make different buying decisions.
So true. And so if you've got that scotoma and you can't see because I've only got, $5,000 in savings, and now you open it up and you've got $50,000 at a 0% interest rate for 18 months on a line of credit, and I can tap that as I get the proof of concept, as I get things worked out, and I can test things out. But now I have much bigger opportunities in front of me.
You just shifted that perspective a tiny bit. That's it.